Hello everyone. So this is the week 2 lab on water pH buffers. And remember, you go down, first you'd click on this and download the report assistant, which is where you're going to fill it in, a worksheet as always. And you've hopefully been clicking on the video weeks playlist so that you find this video. I can talk today, really. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here's the playlist. You've clicked on that, right? And you have clicked on the week 2 lab doc, which is the rubric. So I'm going to pause this for a second and open up that rubric. All right, so this will be the rubric. As you see, it goes through and tells you what every single question's worth, what every table is worth, for each exercise. The last one, the questions are worth a lot. That is one thing you want to pay attention to. When you look at the rubric and the point breakdown, a lot of people just skim through it. But look and see where are the heaviest points, because you're going to want to have a lot more detail down here than you would maybe over in here. And then, as always, you need a reference. You're going to, in this week, I want in-text citations that are correct. I want full references that are correct in a reference section, and I want to see a title page. It doesn't need to be correct and perfect. Well, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be a good start. So, as always, if you want to do a title page, the easiest way, I'll just show you really quick, would be I'd go up here to Insert, click on it, click on Page Break, and then you see I get a blank page. Well, I'll do one more because you would have downloaded your lab manual, right? So when you did it, you would just have this stuff down here. Up here, it would give you your page break. And then in here, you can do the whole enter 4 times, Control E to center it, and then the title of the lab, which is whatever it is. What is it? Water, pH, and buffers. Make sure it exactly matches that. pH and buffers. Then you would put in your name. You would put in the course and the date, whatever the date is. You can also put in my name, but you don't need to. I am going to Control Z a lot of this stuff to just get rid of it, because I don't care and I don't want it in here. There you go. I was like, I want it to just look the same, but that's how you would add in a title page. It's the easiest way. And, make it in times or whatever. I understand the rest of your paper is not in times. Try to make sure that there's no random font changes. One of the labs has a random font change in the question, and I will be grumpy about that. Try to make sure it's all the same inside the paper. If your title page in your reference section, because there's a page break and they are different fonts, as long as the fonts within them are consistent, I'm not going to complain, but I will complain if throughout any section there's an issue. So blah, blah, blah. So you do the needle, you're going to drop it. One way you should see floating and annoying min pin. Look, be quiet. So it's nice that we all have dogs or children, right? So one way it should flow, either vertical or horizontal. If you're not seeing it float, try using tweezers to drop it in. Look online to see what should be happening or what other people have found. And then try to figure out how to correct your issues. With the paper clips, you're going to make a prediction before you do it, and then you should get a crazy number more. Drops of water is usually the same. How many drops? It's usually crazy higher. Observations for part 4, that's for our celery. So you're just going to tell me what happened. You can include a picture if you want, but you don't need to. Just tell me what happened. Okay, how did the experiment in part 1? So in part 1, make sure you're talking about data table 1, right? And you're going to say surface tension. So you're going to need to tell me what the heck surface tension is, and then how this talked about it, right? Then in part 1, when adding the needle to the water, which approach worked best to balance it, vertical or horizontal? You're going to need to tell that, and then you explain why this worked better. So talk about forces, tension. Part 2, so that's the next one. That should be the data table 2, right, with the paper clips. So now you're going to talk about how does your estimation compare to the clip results. I might put a little note in there on why. 3, how were the properties of adhesion and cohesion demonstrated? So this is with the coin, so make sure you're talking with the coin. And you're going to need to tell me what the heck adhesion is and what cohesion is. So I'd be tempted to say adhesion is blah, 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 which was shown by blah, blah, blah. Cohesion is blah, 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 which was shown by blah, blah, blah. This is where you could likely get an in-text citation in for either the manual or outside resource. Oh, see, here's what it's telling you about. It has a random font change. So to make sure that just matches with everybody else, I would just go Control-A to highlight everything and pick times, but just make sure it matches because it's annoying. I know it's in the directions. Fix it. How did the activity in part 4 demonstrate capillary action? So you're going to need to tell me what the heck capillary action is and then what you saw that reflected this, right? So capillary action is blah, 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 which was shown because blah, 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 right? Of course, you'll say it nicer with in-text citations with a full reference section at the end of the entire lab. So you're testing common household values. So I'm going to, when I check this, the commercial and the homemade, you know, the commercial should be a little bit more accurate. The homemade, you're probably going to see a range in the pHs. So I want to see a range in some of these. These first 3, I expect very specific results on whether or not they come out acidic, basic, or neutral. The rest of them, I will eyeball to make sure, like if you put in orange juice, that it's an acid, or if you put in bleach, that it's a base, right? But I'm not so picky, but these first few, and I want to see those ranges. So don't decide like, oh, it could be 5 to 9, so I'll just put in 7. If you see something that looks like it could be a range, put in the range. And if you see something spot on, put on spot on. That's what I want to see. And then the results, so then you'll take this and you know what numbers for pH is acid or basic. You can check the book, of course, the manual and the book. And then you'll say what it is and you'll say why. The why can easily just be the pH was like less than whatever. And like I said, first 3, really picky. The rest of them, I still want to see that you're matching up based on your pH. But if you get a little strange, I'll give you more leeway. But these first 3, I expect very specific things. So that's a warning. Because that tells me too, right? Basically, those are your controls. So if your controls are wrong, like we've learned before, we want to control so we know that we're doing everything correctly. So you got to have those controls right. That's why I'm so picky about this. Okay, and you don't have to have a page break between exercises like it keeps doing. Oh, and if that's weird to you, I didn't say this in the last week, but see over here where there's a little paragraph symbol up here, if you click on that, all those little enter symbols go away. Just for me as an editor, I would prefer it. Okay, so compare and contrast the results between commercial and homemade test strips. Which were more accurate? So which ones gave you the range? Which ones didn't? Why do you think they're more accurate? Why is the pH scale important in science? Give several scientific applications. I can talk applications. So in here, I want at least 2 ways it's used in science. You know, you can talk about for doctors, medicals. That's all science, but it needs to be more than just like, well, vinegar is an acid, so it helps me clean stuff. I need a much more, a little bit of a deeper dive. So I kind of want some outside resources in here. That's where I would expect to use them. What information about a chemical can be inferred by its pH value? So in here, I would put in the equation and talk about the various parts of it, right? And you'll get that equation for pH in your lab manual. If a chemical has a pH of 3, how can you change it to be more basic? A lot of people overthink this. Do you think the most, did I say 0.3 of 3? Do the most obvious. Don't overthink too much. I want a really obvious answer. And as always, submit a draft and I can verify with the answer key, which I feel unmotivated to open at the moment. So buffers in a living system. So you have unbuffered and buffered. Before I did this, I might read up in the book or the manual, probably both, what exactly a buffered solution should be doing and what an unbuffered solution will be doing. And that kind of help you to know what you should be seeing. Because these should not look the same. Okay, and then you'll graph it. Again, you can take a picture and stick it in there of a hand-drawn graph, or you can do it in Excel, or however you wish, whatever is easier for you. This is not a class on learning how to use Excel, so I'm a little bit more lenient. If you do hand draw stuff, just you know, use a ruler, make straight lines, please. Make it so I can read it, that kind of stuff. Crop it so it doesn't take like an entire page. Analyze the results of your experiment. Did the buffer resist changes in pH? Explain your answer using your experiment results. So you're going to want to talk about the buffer and the non-buffer, and then what you were seeing in both, and then how the buffer talks about stuff. Okay, so don't just talk about the buffer. You want to compare it to the M buffer so you can see. Because in this one, the M buffer is more of your control, and it's kind of an experiment between two parts. Research the bicarbonate buffering system found in blood. Write a paragraph, so at least 3 sentences, about this system and breathing rate of acidosis and alkalosis. So that means you're going to have to tell me what the heck the bicarbonate buffer system is, and you're going to tell me about breathing rate with acidosis and pH, because we need to know the pHs of what's going on and what acidosis is. So what alkalosis is, pH of what's going on, and how it affects your breathing rate, right? So it's kind of one thing for what I'm talking about, one for this definition, one for that definition, one for breathing rate for both, and then where your pHs are. So kind of a detailed question. But with a little bit of research, not that hard to answer. Again, probably have a lot of outside sources here that you can have in-text citation for and cite correctly. And that was the last thing. Whoa. You know, it's really faster to go through when I actually know what all the answers are. In this one, the one thing, is this the one that's weird? Yeah. So in this one, just notice it goes exercise 1, no exercise 2, exercise 3, and exercise 4. So we're not doing exercise 2. I might still read, actually I would still read the lab manual, what happened there, just to make sure you don't need to know any of the information for exercise 3 and 4. I don't think you really need to know it, but it might help you understand things better, and understanding is always nice. Okay, so I hope this helped you understand our second week lab and made it feel possible and doable, and like you can do this. As always, give yourself a lot of extra time. Submit a draft. We really like them submitted sometime between Saturday and noon and Monday, just because grading, I need that day on Friday to not be thinking about the previous week. The drafts, if you get it to me on Saturday or Sunday, you'll likely have a lot more detail for me because I'll have more time to work on it than if it's like submitted at like 11:59 on Monday. And when I say noon is the deadline, that means at 12:01 I have turned off the computer. Okay, so make sure you do that by PST. I think that's everything. If you come up with any questions, of course, send me a private message, and I hope this really does help go through it all.